So seek and you shall find, right? This is a phrase we hear a lot, but what does it really mean? One of the statements I hear a lot is, how can the church not be of God? And how can it not be part of his plan? Well, no, I never said that. I agree the church is a part of God's plan in a big, big way. So I'm going to explain what this plan is of God's and how God is using the church to bring his people back into the fold, as he said he would. It all starts with the warning in Deuteronomy chapter 4. God told Moses to tell the people that when we get to the land, if we go and worship other gods, if we break his covenant, then he will exile us to the four corners of the world. And why did he say he would do this? For just that reason, because we've forsaken his commandments and forsaken his law and his commandments and covenant that he gave us so that we could fulfill them in the land that he gave us, the promised land that he gave and promised to our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see, if we're not doing these commandments, if we're not doing his laws, we're not bearing glory to his name, we're not fulfilling our purpose that he gave us to do. That's the whole role of Israel. That's the whole purpose, to be a light to the Gentiles by using his laws and his commands and show the world how to be righteous on this earth. So if we don't keep our end of the bargain, he said he'll exile us. And here's where it all starts. Here's where we are today. I want you to take a look at the warning that God gives us in Deuteronomy chapter 4. Take a look.
Verse 23, take heed unto yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Jehovah your God, which he made with you, and make you a graven image, the likeness of anything which Jehovah thy God hath forbidden thee. For Jehovah thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. When thou shalt beget children and children's children, and you shall have remained long in the land, and you shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image, or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of Jehovah thy God, to provoke him to anger, I call to heaven and earth to witness against you this day that you shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereover ye go over Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed. And Jehovah shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither Jehovah shall lead you. And from there you shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But if from thence thou shalt seek Jehovah thy God, thou shalt find him, if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in tribulation and all these things come upon thee, even in the latter days, if you turn to Jehovah thy God and shalt be obedient unto his voice, for Jehovah thy God is a merciful God, he will not forsake thee, neither will destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers which he sware unto thee.
So here it is. Here's the explanation of everything and where we are today. We were warned not to forget the covenant, and we were told that obedience to that covenant is what will bring our redemption back to the land, so that we can fulfill the purpose we were intended to do, right? But this will only happen if we seek him with all our heart, our soul, and our mind. And this is exactly what the prophet Jeremiah told us when the Jews were exiled from their land in Judea. Israel at this point had already been exiled. But take a look at what God told us through the hand of Jeremiah here.
Jeremiah 29:12-14. Then shall you call upon me, and you shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you, and you shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, saith Jehovah, and I will turn away your captivity, and will gather you from all the nations, and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith Jehovah, and I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive.
So here's the promise. Even though that we've sinned and broken his covenant, and we've been exiled from the land, and we're scattered across the globe, if from thence we will seek him with all our heart, our soul, and our mind, he will bring our captivity back again, back to the land, so we can fulfill the purpose that we were intended to do in the first place. And this is exactly what Jeremiah was instructing the people and giving the people hope, is that God will send fishermen. He will send fishers to fish the people out. And you'll recognize this, as I mentioned in another video, that being fishers of men, this is what it is alluding to, by going and finding them and fishing them out. Take a look at Jeremiah 16.
Verse 15, But Jehovah liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he hath driven them, and I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Jehovah, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks.
And many people today will say that the church is God's people itself. And you're right. They're in there. The problem is that the leaders are not fishing them out. They are not shepherding the people with God's law. They are not feeding the flock. Therefore, the people are starved. They have no knowledge. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, you shall be no priest to me. This is Hosea 4:6. It's our job to make sure that we fish them out. But how do we do that? We have to do it by shepherding the people with his laws and his commandments. The people in the church right now are starving, and they don't have any words of God. Therefore, the people are not being taken care of. So now God is using the church to bring the people in, and it's from that point then it's our job to do just as the instructions were given, that we should seek him and find him if we search for him with all our heart, our soul, and our mind. This is what the church is meant to do, to intermingle the Gentiles with the people of Jacob into one fold, to bring an awareness of the God of Israel. But it's our job from that point to grow and then to find him if we seek him with all our heart, our soul, and our mind.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo. But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
And eventually, once that happens, it's your job to fish the people out of this holding point. So here's a hint of what it means to search and find him with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And this is coming from King David, a man after God's own heart by reputation. And I'd say he knows a thing or two about the subject. So take a look.
Psalm 119, verse 1, Blessed are the undefiled in the way who walk in the law of Jehovah. Blessed are they that keep his testimonies, that seek him with the whole heart. With my whole heart have I sought thee. O let me not wander from thy commandments. I cried with my whole heart, Hear me, O Jehovah. I will keep thy statutes.
David here is just a perfect example of what we're supposed to do. Once we're in the church and we have been brought in by the church, it's up to us to now seek him with all our heart, our soul, and our mind, to do his commandments, to do his statutes, and learn his laws. This is what this is for. This is God's plan. And this is exactly what God says he will do in the latter end days. He will raise up a shepherd like David. He will be the king, and then he will lead the people back to truth and righteousness by doing his laws, doing his statutes, and keeping the commandments. And then there will be no more division. Remember, the reason why the kingdom was split in two was because of the forsaking of the covenant. Therefore, by obeying this covenant, the two kingdoms, the Jews and the church, will unite together as one under one shepherd that will feed the flock appropriately with the laws, commandments, and statutes that we were given.
Ezekiel 37, verse 24, And David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and they shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. Ezekiel 34, verse 23, And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And I, Jehovah, will be their God, and my servant David a prince among them. I, Jehovah, have spoken it.
The problem is here that we have not been feeding the hungry with the words of God. We have not been shepherding the people with God's laws. See, we're either a shepherd that feeds them with God's words and his laws and teaches them with those statutes and principles, or we are a wolf that is scattering the flock. We're either gathering or we're scattering. It's one of the two. So it's your choice to either be a wolf or a shepherd. We're supposed to be feeding them with the words of God, clothing them with the commandments, supposed to be releasing the prisoners that are in darkness by giving them the truth, and that truth is God's laws and his commandments. Isaiah 8 verse 20 says, To the law and the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because there is no light in them. And this is what God says in Revelation. He says that the kingdom is full of darkness. And why is that? Because there's no law of God being taught in them. So there's no light in this kingdom. Therefore, he says he will punish the sinful kingdom. Many will remember the parable given in Matthew 25 about separation of the sheep and the goats. What people do not realize is this is a parable that is stemming from the teaching given in Ezekiel chapter 34 regarding punishing the he-goats that didn't shepherd the people properly with the words of God. In Ezekiel 34, God is speaking against the shepherds that did not feed the people properly with his laws. Therefore, he is judging between cattle and cattle, between sheep and goats.
Ezekiel 34, verse 9, Therefore, O ye shepherds, hear the word of Jehovah. Thus saith Jehovah God, Behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flock. Neither shall the shepherds feed themselves any more, for I will deliver the flock from their mouth, that they may not be meat for them. Verse 6, I will seek that which was lost, and bring again that which was driven away, and will bind up that which was broken, and will strengthen that which was sick. But I will destroy the fat and the strong. I will feed them with judgment. And as for you, O my flock, saith Jehovah God, Behold, I judge between cattle and cattle, between rams and the he-goats.
So if you are a pastor, if you are a spiritual leader, if you are a shepherd, it's your job to shepherd the people with the laws of God. This is what's being taught in this chapter. If you are not doing this, then it is the same thing that God is alluding to by the hand of Jeremiah in chapter 13. God tells Jeremiah to take a girdle and go hide it under a rock. And after some time, God says, go get the rock that you hid under the rock past the Euphrates. And Jeremiah comes and gets it, and he says it's good for nothing. It's of no use. And he says, so is this people before me. They don't teach the people my laws. They don't teach the people my words. Therefore, this girdle, just as the shepherds at this time, they're good for nothing. And this is the illusion being given in this parable, that they're unprofitable servants. Take a look.
Jeremiah 13, verse 10, this evil people which refuse to hear my words, which walk in the imagination of their heart, and walk after other gods to serve them and to worship them, shall even be as this girdle, which is good for nothing.
So let's see exactly what this parable of Matthew 25 is alluding to. Take a look.
I was hungry, you gave me no meat. How sweet are thy words unto my taste, yea, sweeter than honey to my mouth. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I opened my mouth and panted, for I longed for thy commandments. I was a stranger, and you took me not in. I am a stranger in the earth. Hide not thy commandments from me. I was naked, and you clothed me not. Then shall I not be ashamed, when I have respect unto all thy commandments. I was sick and in prison, and you visited me not. The proud have digged pits for me, which are not after thy law. All thy commandments are faithful. They persecute me wrongfully. Help thou me.
This is the whole duty of Israel. This is what the nation is called to do, to instruct the world in righteousness and be a light to the Gentile nations. And how do we do that? We have to do that by giving the people the laws that God gave us to instruct us in righteousness. We need to be making sure that we are bearing glory to His name and not to other gods, and not serving other gods and taking upon other commandments, but rather to use His commandments as the basis of truth that was given, so that we can guide the other nations in the light that we have been called to do.
Isaiah chapter 42, verse 6, I, Jehovah, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. I am Jehovah, that is my name, and my glory I will not give to another name, neither my praise to graven images.
So if we are bringing glory to another name and teaching people the commandments and appointed times and festivals that are not from His law, we're unprofitable. We're not teaching the people the proper way that God has given us to teach the people. He's given us a staff, and that is His law. And we use that staff and we use His law to shepherd the flock, just as David used to teach the people out of God's law. And he was a man after God's own heart. That's why he says that he will use a shepherd just like him to feed the flock one day and unite the Jews, unite the church, and bring them one stick in his hand. That's what will happen. And it is only going to happen by taking heed to the covenant that we did not listen to. And that's why the kingdom was actually divided. And so by keeping this covenant, by walking in these statutes and keeping the commandments, the kingdom will be once again united. So what's the real big picture here? How does this all work together? So God has placed us in the church, and from this point, it's our jobs to seek Him with all our heart, our soul, and our mind, just as He instructed us that we would have to do in the latter days. See, once we've gotten into the church itself, we have an awareness of the God of Israel. But the message that is being spoken is not the words of God. So it's up to us as we continue to grow to draw near unto God. As just as He told us in Malachi chapter 3, verse 6 and 7, He says, return unto me, and I will return unto you. I change not, therefore ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. And what is He referring to? Jacob is one that fought for that birthright. He wrestled with the angel. He went through trouble like you couldn't imagine just to gain and keep that birthright. And at the end of it all, the angel named him Israel. Your name shall no more be called Jacob, but Israel, because you have wrestled with God and man and have prevailed. This is what you have to do. This is what overcoming is about. This is why you keep hearing, he that overcometh will receive an everlasting name. The everlasting name is Israel. But you have to overcome it. You have to wrestle with the angel. You have to be willing to forsake everything you have. Just like our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they had to forsake everything they had. Abraham, our forefather, was told in the beginning that he had to escape and go to a foreign land that he didn't know of. God protected him during that time. God tested Abraham once again. He wanted to see if he would give up his only son that he had just given him. And he was willing to do it. He was willing to give up everything he had. So now, you may lose friends. You may lose family members. But you know what? This is what our forefathers had to go through before us. And if you're going to be worthy to bear that name Israel, you have to go through these things. Listen, I've been through it. I know what it feels like It's not fun. There's been many sleepless nights. There's been many nights where I'm crying myself to sleep through the struggles that I've had to go through. But at the end of it all, I have the hope, and I know that God says that those that wait upon him, he shall bear up with wings as eagles. Eye hath not seen nor ear heard the things that God has for those that wait upon him. So once you've found the truth, don't turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Once you've taken hold of the truth that God's voice is in the church, it's just not being spoken, then go, hearken to God's voice. Don't worry about the shepherds. Don't worry about what group to assimilate with. And it's time to fish people out. No one wants to hear this message until it's time. Well, it's time. So if you're hearing this now, go, instruct your friends, instruct your family, let them know, hey, we've inherited lies. Everything that's been passed down to us has been nothing but lies. And go and fish them out. And there'll be so many fish that you can't be able to carry them on the net. That's what this time is about. So go be a fisher of man. Seek him with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And see the big picture that God used this church, this module, to fish out and bring his people in, to bring an awareness. But then it's up to us to go and seek him out from that point forward. So just take this message, use it, apply it. And now that things are coming into focus, let's just adhere to the words of God. Let's just come back to the law of God, and let's just start to teach other people how to do it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in another video.